everyone. This week we are reading Chapter 1 of Mortem, Book 6 in the Mail Carrier series. Would you like a brownie bite? Was all I had to ask the group of teenagers before they bombarded me, snatching up all the fresh baked goodies Iris Peabody had made for the end of the year fundraiser for the Sugar Creek High School Booster Club. With an empty tray, I headed across the ballroom at the Sugar Creek Country Club toward the kitchen to get a refill. Whoops! I lifted the tray in the air and twirled around when I almost bumped into somebody. I'm sorry. Luckily, the tray is empty. I pulled the tray down and gripped the edges, thankful I didn't have anything on it. Sorry, Bernie. Rachel Faulkner, another mom in the Booster Club, apologized. Oh, it's okay. No harm. Say, I noticed she was looking around and not really paying attention to me. Her brows were knotted. I heard Les got the engineering grant. That's amazing. Her son Les was probably the smartest kid that ever come out of Sugar Creek High School. He had always dreamed of going to one of those fancy Ivy League colleges, and Rachel and her husband Jeff had always been so great about letting him go off to the various camps that he wanted to attend. If I remember correctly, his first camp was when he was like 6, and it was out west. It was some sort of chemistry camp, and I remember thinking that there was no way Grady, my son, would have been able to remember to change his underwear daily, much less go 20-something hours away to a camp and get up to attend some sort of classes. STEM grant, she corrected me. I'm sorry, Bernie. I'm looking for Jeff. Have you seen him? She touched my forearm, and I could feel her shaking. I haven't. Are you okay? I asked and repeated STEM in my head so I could remember to ask someone about STEM. No, I can't find him. He's not answering his cell phone, and his foursome came in hours ago. As she spoke, I felt her worry. I've asked everyone, and no one seems to have seen where he is, and it's not like him not to answer his phone. Oh, I'm sure he's somewhere around here. I wanted to make her feel better, and I felt like I was right. When I make my rounds and see him, I'll tell him to come find you. Thanks, Bernie. If you see him, text me. I'm worried. She shook her head and hurried off to the next person she recognized. And when I passed them, I overheard her asking them the same question that she'd asked me. Have you seen Jeff? I can't find him anywhere. Her voice trailed off as I continued to head to the kitchen to get a refill of the baked goodies since I was on teenager duty. I think if we don't make the money, Jeff and Rachel Faulkner will go nuts. I kept my head down, but walked a smidge slower after I heard some gossip. Another woman said, I know. She wanted to do that casino night again. That would have been like the 15th year they've done it, I overheard another woman say. I almost looked up to see who it was, but since I had been the president of the Booster Club at the time they were referring, and was the one who actually started casino night, I didn't. Yeah, we need a refresher, and if this golf outing doesn't do it, it'll be back to casino night for sure next year. A long sigh came out of the first woman I heard talking. I rolled my eyes and headed into the swingy door that led to the country club's kitchen, where I found my best friend and amazing baker, Iris Peabody, and head chef of the country club, Audrey Rogers, plating all the trays they could as fast as they could. Have y'all seen Jeff Faulkner? I asked a couple of the other moms who had volunteered to carry trays to the guests to the fundraiser. They shook their heads. Well, if you do, please tell him his wife is looking for him. What was the big eye roll about when you walked in? Iris placed a tiny little paper cupcake holder on my tray. Each one was filled with the perfect bite-sized vanilla cupcake with a nice thick topping of buttercream icing and a sliced strawberry on top for decoration. I overheard some of the women out there talking about how this fundraiser had to make more money than casino night because they don't want to go back to casino night next year. I did my best impression of them with a whiny voice to match the feeling they gave me. I've been hearing a lot about that lately. I guess they didn't like casino night. Audrey put the finishing touches on one of the charcuterie boards before she was off to the waitstaff of the country club, carefully picking up the massive pieces of wood and slowly propping them up on one of his shoulders. He gingerly took a few steps to get his footing and then walked right out of the kitchen. Iris headed over to the refrigerator and walked in. Casino night was great. I put my hands on my thick hips and gave a pouty lip. I should know. That was when Grady was still in high school and I was the booster mom. My son Grady was now a grown man with a family of his own. Recently, he and his wife Julia had blessed me with my first grandchild, Clara. I thought of her and made my heart swoon with delight. I remember how much you stressed over it. Iris emerged from the walk-in refrigerator with a cookie sheet filled with mini cheesecake and set them on top of the wooden workstation. The first hour was a bit touchy. She looked at Audrey, then picked up one of the cans of whipped cream and shook it. Bernie was counting the money every, like 10 seconds? She questioned me. Well, maybe after a few drinks in those dads were the donations rolling in. I nodded with a big grin across my face. That's why casino night worked. They were at the table betting and not driving around in golf carts drinking all day. Iris made a little volcano on the top of each one of the cheesecake and put a raspberry in the middle for decorations before she plated it on a tray for another volunteer to take out for the hungry golfers and their family before the big meal was served. Yeah, then they came in here and ate all the food, which soaks up all the alcohol. Audrey had moved over to the oven where she was checking on the personal-sized hens she would be serving tonight. Yep. That's when they all realized that they didn't have to write a check because they were thinking a little clearer. I pushed the swinging door open with a little and peeked out to see if Grady and Julia had gotten there yet. I didn't see them, but I did see Rachel Faulkner. She seemed to be in a panic as she rushed around to the various groups and hurried away as soon as their heads shook no. Your idea of having the casino dealer ask each hand if they wanted to donate their chip to the Booster Club was brilliant because they were so busy drinking and gambling they didn't realize their chips were adding up over the hands and they just kept buying more chips when they were out. Iris walked over and peeked out behind me. I wonder where Jeff is. I turned around when I recognized the tone in her voice. For a brief moment, our eyes caught. I could see there was deep concern in her face, but I didn't dare ask. I didn't want to know. Here, she shoved the tray of brownies in my hand. Go give those to the kids. Your time with me is limited, I reminded her. I know. Clara comes first, she teased, shoving me out the door. She was right. Baby Clara came first, now that she was here. I had altered my entire life around Grady and his needs after he was born. Richard had a great job, and I was able to quit my mail carrier job and be a stay-at-home mom. It was a wonderful time for me and Grady. Grady had been in high school when Richard was killed in a car wreck, and I had to go back to working at the post office. And even though Grady was still a teenager and could pretty much take care of himself, I still spent every waking moment outside of work to be there. And that included all the school events, as well as being the booster president. Even when Grady went off to college, I stayed involved in the school system. Sugar Creek Gap is a small mill town in the foothills of the mountains of Kentucky, so there weren't a lot of parents who had time to volunteer or they had to leave once their children were out of school. And since I knew a lot of people in the community, it was so easy for me to stay involved. I was glad I had because Grady had come back after college to take a teaching position at the high school and the head coaching position on the football team. He married Julia, who I couldn't love any more than I did. They had recently had Clara, who I did love more than anything in this world. So when they asked me if I could watch Clara during the fundraiser, it was a no-brainer. I was able to help Iris out for the first hour and then take little Clara home with me for the night while Julia and Grady had a big night out. What's on your tray? My mom asked when I walked up to her and my dad, who were standing with a few women from the community. Not a thing. Those kids cleaned me out again. I stuck the tray up under my arm. Are y'all having a good time? I looked around at the ladies I knew very well. There was Dr. Janine Olson, the local librarian, and Matilda Green, who owned the Roasted Bean, a local coffee shop. And then there was Sarah Redmond, who owned the Leaf and Petal Garden Center, and my parents, who were the owner of the local diner, the Wallflower, the restaurant on Main Street, and this rounded their group of friends standing there currently. We are having a nice time. I hope someone wins my silent auction item. Sarah Redmond was generous enough to offer a free day's worth of landscaping. That was very kind of you to offer your time, Matilda nodded. I donated a basket of coffee goodies. Oh, it seems like everything is getting some nice bids. Dr. Olson held a drink in her hand. I'm just not sure it'll bring in more money than the previous years. Where's Grady? I want to see my Clara, my dad beamed when he talked about her, no different than the rest of us. She was a light in all of our hearts that never dulled. I don't know. I pulled my wrist up to look at my watch. They said they'd be here right after supper, so it has to be any minute now. I looked around to see any sign of them, but nothing. Oh, well, I better get back to the kitchen so Iris gets to use me before I hold Clara all night long. You better not hold her all night long. You're going to ruin her for Julia, and she won't let you babysit no more. My mom gave me a stern warning that went in one ear and out the other before I headed back in the direction of the kitchen. Any luck? I ran into Rachel Faulkner again. No, and I'm starting to worry. She blinked a few times before Ranger Slater took the stage. Good evening and welcome to Sugar Creek Gap Country Club. On behalf of the staff and the members, we hope that you're having a great day on the links and continue to have a wonderful evening for a great cause. Ranger gestured over to the silent auction. We hope you continue to bid on all the wonderful items that have been generously donated by the members in our community. I believe I'm the winning bid for the free oil change donated by Colvin Batty from the gas station. And I believe my wife, Peggy, is winning the gorgeous blanket made by our very own Leota Goldie from Social Networks. I was glad to see Ranger making an effort to get people to bid higher. It was the only way to generate some donations inside the country club. From what I understood during one of the booster meetings, the real money was donated from the various people who had sponsored each golf hole. And a portion of the fee to enter the golf tournament was also going to go to the boosters, though I had no idea because I was not a golfer. Hey there, beautiful. Without turning around, I knew that sweet sound in my ear was Mac Tabor, my devilishly handsome and amazing boyfriend. You come here often? He asked. Stop it. I twisted around and smiled. How is the golf course? He grumbled. You and I both know that I'm not a golfer. I wish they would have just let me donate instead of pretending to know how to hit that tiny white ball. What do you say we blow this joint? You know, I'm waiting on Clara, I reminded him. That's why Julia and Grady are waiting outside in the parking lot for you and why I came in to get you. He pulled something out of his back pocket and held it between his fingers. And drop off my donation check. You're the best. I gave him a quick kiss on the lips. You go put that in the donation box while I go say goodbye to Iris and grab my purse. I'll be waiting in the parking lot, he said. Mac Tabor had been in mine and Grady's lives forever. It seemed like forever. He came with Richard, not in our marriage. He was like Richard's best friend, and he was alongside us throughout our marriage and was really there for me after Richard died. Some not so flattering things about Richard and a secret life that he had our entire marriage had practically brought me to my knees and broken me, but luckily Grady and I had Mac there to pick us up the pieces and make seem what was an impossible situation some sense out of it. I don't know what I would have done without Mac to be there. Anyways, I walked back to get my purse, and I overheard a man telling Rachel that he saw Jeff walk off the golf course mad. So my nosy side needed a little scratching, so I might have walked a little slower to get my purse. He and Bruce Klein got into an argument, and from what I could see, they had a few words. And when Jack walked off, but not before he threw his golf clubs, Rachel's face paled. Chapter 1. Postmortem.